is Thursday, October 3rd. The time is 1:54 p.m. This continuance is streamed on YouTube. And the agenda item is number 8, Initiator Planning Director, application PL-PDI 2024-000008. The planning director has initiated an ordinance to amend Chapter 25 zoning, Article 2, Article 4, Article 5, and Article 7 of the Hawaii County Code 1983, 2016 edition as amended, related to telecommunication antennas and towers. The purpose is to remove the requirement for a use permit to establish telecommunication antennas and towers in certain zoning districts, add application requirements, and amend standards for the establishment of telecommunication antennas and towers. Public testimony has concluded and no further testimony will be allowed on this item. The commission will continue to discuss, deliberate, and decide or act upon this item as prescribed in the agenda. At our last meeting, the commission made a motion to forward a favorable recommendation to the county council on PL-PDI 2024-000008. And the commission voted to continue this item to today's meeting to allow for further discussion with emergency services personnel regarding how they consider siting a radio or telecommunications tower. All right, so if I can ask Tracy.
Good afternoon, Chair and members of the Windward Planning Commission. So after our September 5th Windward Planning Commission meeting, staff went back and we revised the ordinance as shown in your Exhibit 2A to include on pages 3 and 4 portions that are highlight. It shows the changes and highlights. The first being that we have added that a report about the co-location shall include maps showing the coverage areas of existing towers within a 2-mile radius of the proposed tower. And the second change that we had proposed was on page 4, which would include that telecommunication facilities developed by government agencies, primarily to protect public health, safety, and welfare, including but not limited to facilities for police, fire, ambulance, and other emergency dispatch services, shall be exempt from the telecommunication tower requirements outlined in this chapter. This exhibit, as well as Exhibit 2, was given to the Leeward Planning Commission, and they had voted to grant a favorable recommendation of these changes. So before you today, we do have Major Jeremy Evangelista from Police, as well as the Civil Defense Director Talmadge Magno here to answer any questions that you guys may have.
Okay, thank you very much. If I could ask Administrator and Major, if you could please come up. Before we start, I'll swear you in real quickly. If you could please raise your right hand. You swear or affirm to tell the truth on this matter now before the Windward Planning Commission.
I do.
Okay, and we'll just ask that you state your name for the record before you speak. The purpose of asking you both here is really just to get some clarity on how our emergency agencies utilize radio towers and telecommunication, as well as how the agencies site and find locations for their communication towers. Is provided that what the director is proposing exempts your agencies from the rules here. We just want to give a little bit more clarity on how you guys operate if you're siting new towers or radio communications.
Good afternoon. I'm Talmadge Magno, Civil Defense Administrator.
Good afternoon. I'm Jeremy Evangelista, Major with the Hawaii Police Department Technical Services Division. As far as siting towers for the Hawaii County, we do look to civil defense to do that. They oversee the county's land mobile radio network. We would provide input to civil defense as to where there are gaps in our communications for land mobile radio use. And that would help determine what sites need new towers.
So presently, the county's infrastructure is pretty intact. We do have some sites that, well, the site that at PGV that was taken out from the 2018 lava flow that has to be rebuilt. That's in the process. We do have other areas that have minimal communications for emergency services. So perhaps in the future, with technology and so forth, maybe some others sites might be proposed, but aside from PGV, there's nothing on the books right now to be added to the county site. Just to share with you guys, our site is, because of the big mountains that we have on this island, you've got to go around the mountains. And so we have over 20 repeater sites around the island. To the point that we even have a repeater site on Haleakala that shoots back to service the north side of the island, Kohala area. So as far as siting, our very high frequency band is able to, expand quite a few miles, much more than cellular does. So we don't have to be, just a few miles away. For instance, we bounce signals from Kulani Cone to a site called Humuula, which is kind of on the base of Mauna Kea, and then we make its way around the island various ways. From Kulani, it goes to Naalehu, South Point, Counterpoint, so various sites at those kind of distances, it makes its way around the islands.
And I guess my question then is if you did have to look for a new location for a tower, what's the kind of process that your agencies would go through? So say one of the repeaters, is not working and it's disrepair, right? And you have to find a new location. How would you determine that, as well as is there any public process where you would notify, the people around it, or letting the people know that, hey, County of Hawaii is installing something new here, whether or not it's on state land or private land, and that kind of questions.
So one current example is the new emergency communication center that's going up on Mohu'uli. A tower went up on that one, and that had to go through the permitting process where the community was given time to comment and so forth. So that had to go through those processes. FAA had to weigh in on that one because it is a flight path. So all the compliance is taken care of with those towers.
Director?
Just to add to the conversation, so if you folks are going to develop a tower somewhere out more remote, and it's say like on private land, do you guys have to do an EA on that for the tower itself? Depending.
I would think so. Well, I haven't been through the process. It kind of depends on the scope of the work.
So what I was getting at is that generally anytime you're spending government funds, there's a whole other amount of review and process. So that's why we were feeling quite good with exempting, but just wanted to kind of add to that combo.
Thanks, Director. Commissioners, any other question? Yeah, my main concern was just, that people aren't in the know. If something is, if government puts in something new, that they won't know about it. Because we've had a lot of those kind of concerns, is like, well, we weren't notified, we don't know about it. And the second one is also whether or not these locations would be on private or state or county land. That would be the other question, because then if you're doing it on private land, how does that process go? Do you just, I assume there's still a notification of your neighbors that you're putting a big tower up. But that's kind of the considerations that I'm thinking about. I mean, I know that, on state and county land is a little bit different, but if we're gonna put it on private land, that would be my thought process there.
Right. And so we do have existing stations on private land as well as the county sites and we co-locate on state sites as well. You know, as far as the private sites, they've already been established, so I would assume that they would have to go through the regular building compliance permit process.
And that was my question, Director Kern, is do they still have a public process that they would have to go through? Under this proposed.
Under this proposed
ordinance, yeah.
ordinance, no. They would be exempt from the process. Similarly, we're moving to the plan approval process, which is different than this public hearing process. And part of the reason is that there's a misperception to the public engagement around this public hearing process, because you throw out there, hey, we're going to do this, but you got 60 days and you may like it or not. We saw that happen in Ocean View. And then if you miss, you know, a quorum, let's say that public process goes right out the door because it's just automatically approved with no conditions. And so I think that's the challenge and the balance. And I'd say from the government perspective, they may have other obligations outside of this. It might be unique to each one, but if there's an EA required, there's a notification process. There's a lengthy process that goes along with that. But within this, it wouldn't do that. And if we were, to what effect? Right? Because there's usually a engagement, a process, then they can come in like we were dealing with earlier. They come in and actually like can adjust the decision making or add additional elements to it. In this case, they might be able to file an appeal with the Board of Appeals, which would be the next level. So that would be kind of the bigger conversation. Yeah, how we do that.
At any point, would the planning department or any of these agencies deem it necessary to effect eminent domain on any properties, saying that we're going to take it because we find it to be the most suitable location?
I couldn't answer that question. It's not in
I
my
mean, that's just kind of my
jurisdiction.
thought, right? It's, say there's an ideal location and it's like, it's the best coverage, has the best reception, whatever it is, but it's owned by somebody else, not county or state. And what would the county do to say, okay, we want to build a tower here because it will help our emergency services, it helps civil defense, and we want your property? How would that work?
They would have to go through the legal eminent domain process, and then the land would become government land. And then when a government land is being used for a project, it triggers an EA or an EIS, which then would trigger an additional amount of studies as well as notification.
And just to clarify, the eminent domain process has procedural protections and notice built in.
Exactly.
Okay, thank you. I don't have any more questions.
Yeah, could we just clarify, we're talking about separate towers than like telecommunication, I mean, or do you cohabitate or co-locate on existing towers? Or is it a combination of both? You guys have your own towers?
County has its own
Own
towers
towers,
in
okay.
some sites.
Okay,
And we have our own sites on private property that we lease from these private owners. We co-locate on state sites. And we have our own on county property.
okay, and those towers are solely dedicated for emergency services?
They are,
Or the others, I mean, or there are other carriers like AT&T on there, or different, and just like a normal tower?
we have co-locators on there that include other state agencies,
Okay.
federal agencies, and let's see. Pretty sure there's no cell carriers on our sites.
Okay, I was just trying to make that distinction, so there's, so basically we have two different towers, right? We have a emergency service, right, government.
And public service, we have
Right.
some like HPR.
Right.
Yeah.
Right, okay.
And just so to add to that, so that's where we added in the provision or the language, telecommunications facilities developed by government agencies. So that would be a standalone that's solely for their purpose. Now, if, let's say, a cell phone tower operator was going to build something and they wanted to put something on there, the cell phone tower operator would have to comply with all provisions of this chapter, go through the whole process. And then if they were able to put something on there as a repeater or something, great. But that wouldn't then exclude the cell phone tower developer from the provisions of this chapter. That makes sense.
Okay. Any other questions? No? Okay. There was a motion on the floor to forward a favorable recommendation to the county council on this agenda item, and it was moved by Commissioner Kush, which for the record, Commissioner Kush has since resigned as he has taken up the representative role for District 1 of our island. And it was seconded by myself as chair at the last meeting on September 5th. Commissioner, do you have any other comments or discussions on that favorable recommendation? Okay, seeing that there's no other discussion, then we'll move to take the roll call vote.
Okay, so the motion is to forward a favorable recommendation to the county council, which does include the changes made by the director as shown in Exhibit 2A. So Commissioner Baylog,
Aye.
Vice Chair Daniele,
Aye.
Commissioner Deleuze,
Aye.
and Chair Lynn.
Aye.
Let the record show the motion carries 4-0 with Commissioner Perrin excused and absent. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your time. Okay, with that, okay, if there's no other business, I just want to ask planning staff, when is Councilmember Evans' proposed bill going to be heard at the commission? Because that one also deals with telecommunication.
That is on your November 1st agenda.
Okay, like I said, busy November agenda.
Chair,
Yeah.
should we ask staff to let those same individual, would you want to see them, Chief or Minister Magno, et cetera, at the next one under Cindy, or you guys feel good about that?
I don't know. I haven't seen the bill yet, so I wouldn't know who to call. Okay, if there's no other business, may I please ask for a motion to adjourn this meeting?
I'll make a motion to adjourn today's meeting.
Okay, Vice Chair Daniele made the motion to adjourn. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Commissioner Baylog. Okay, all those in favor to adjourn, please say aye. Any opposed? Okay, we adjourn at 2:12. Thank you very much for your time, everybody.
The closed captions transcript will be terminated shortly, and those who wish to save the transcript should do so now.